You had the honor of working with Cicely so many times. What made her so great?
You know what made Miss Tyson, because we all called her Miss
Yes,
Tyson.
we
I don't know
did.
what you knew her, Miss Tyson.
Thank you, Lord, for letting me see my grandson again.
You know what made her great was her tenacity, her persistence, her drive, her love of life. She lived life out loud. I mean, she did it boldly. I mean, look at her fashion. You know, she started off as a model in the 50s and 60s. So her whole sense of life was about taking a bite out of it, making a statement, being bold and being unapologetic. And that's one of the things I learned from her. You know, my biggest lesson from her was just love life, take care of yourself. You know, she was a vegan since the 1960s, you know, around the time she was married to Miles Davis. And she said, just be careful what you put inside your body. You know, you'll last longer. So I learned a lot from her about the craft, the art of acting, the work, but also how to live life, how to walk through life.
Do you have a favorite moment with her? Because I love that you point out, you know, I think there are a lot of people who will be confused today when people aren't saying, well, Cicely, I knew it is Miss Tyson.
That's right. That's if you know, if they know her well. But, you know, one of the things I remember mostly was we were doing a show called, a movie called Heat Wave about the 1965 riots in Watts. I played her grandson and she was watching. It was all during the middle of the riots with the National Guard everywhere. And I was exhausted. I was emotionally drained and I could not bring up those tears and those emotions. And she looked at me, she said, come here. And all she did in between takes, she just put her arms around me and hugged me and just held me for about a minute. And Kevin Hooks was directing. He said, oh, just take your time. And I just welled up with the emotions I needed for that scene. And then she tapped me on the shoulder and said, go on, baby. And we got that shot. So she was always there as that mentor, that maternal figure, and just the ultimate exemplar of professionalism and grace and elegance and beauty and all of that. The other thing was she documented everything. So she was that fan on the set. Wherever she went, she brought a camera with her. So she loved to take pictures of everybody else while everybody else wants to take a picture of her.
You were there for both the dedications at the Tyler Perry Studios. What was that like that night? You remember those moments, the emotions when you see, and she was like in shock that someone would want to dedicate a soundstage to her.
You know, the thing with Miss Tyson was she had such a strong sense of humility. She knew who she was. And as I said, she walked boldly and she knew what was, she had expectations, which was good and in a positive way. And in that sense, you're right, at Tyler Perry's dedication of the studio, that humility was on full display, and grace and elegance and all that she personified and presented to the world.
You know, we look back in time and we think of Miss Jane Pittman, we think of Sounder. When you think of those, the scene of her running down the road, and then you think of Miss Jane Pittman walking so slowly to drink that water. How is it that she crafted such beautiful moments?
Man, I gotta tell you, Miss Jane Pittman was one of the projects that made me want to become an actor. It's funny because you talk about the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman, and in that film, I think at the end, she was like 100 years old or something like that. And you look at her character now, she was in her 30s when she did that, but she looked all wrinkled and, you know, aged and you know, she lived life. And look at Miss Tyson at 96. Looks like most 50-year-olds look today, just her skin and then her spirit and all of that. But no, but you're right. You know, to watch her craft that from an audience perspective as a child, and then to have the opportunity to work alongside her, because we did a project called Mama Flora's Family, where I played her son, and I had the chance to age from age 15 to 60 alongside Miss Tyson. You know, for all that just that whole multi-generational arc of character is what I keyed into when I watched Miss Jane Pittman, just to play those different people at different stages of life and to watch her just incrementally build this character was awe-inspiring, man. It was breathtaking, and I feel very incredibly humbled to have learned at the feet of a master like Miss Tyson.
Fame didn't come to her early on. It took a minute, but then finally, audiences recognized her in this second act where she began to cross over. What was that like for her?
Wow, that's a great question. You know, I never talked to her about that per se, but I would tell you, because we worked together over a span of maybe 20, 25 years, but there was such a sense of gratitude, such an incredible, profound sense of gratitude that she'd done the work. When I spoke before about her professionalism, she was all about the work and focusing on getting it done. and getting it done with excellence. You know, when she won the Tony Award for The Trip to Bountiful in her late 80s, early 90s, it was a second, maybe third act for her in the public eye, but she never stopped living. She never stopped creating, never stopped thinking and teaching. You know, she had her own school in New Jersey, you know, thinking about the next generation and the next generation. So she was always very vital, but in terms of the public awareness of what she was doing through the work as a performing artist and as an actress, I think there was a second and third act. And when she won the Tony Award 6-7 years ago for The Trip to Bountiful, that was the beginning of this final act. And she really started to receive all the accolades that she deserved. It was in this time, in the last several years, she received her honorary Academy Award, which she should have gotten founder many moons ago.
What is the legacy of Cicely Tyson?
The legacy of Cicely Tyson is so much, man. The legacy of Cicely Tyson was that she was a trailblazer. You know, when she came along when she did in the 50s and 60s, with her contemporaries, Ossie Davis, Sidney Poitier, Harry Belafonte, and they broke barriers for artists of color and also for women, Miss Tyson did. And she did it with aplomb, and she did it with strength, and she did it with foresight and vision. Her legacy is that of excellence.